Okay, so I promised things would get weird, and here we go. I'm going to send everybody the link to the Stripsody. This is
Yeah. Boom, 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 boom. Boing.
So, there we go. That's just a little hit, like a little snippet. I'm going to send you the link for the YouTube. It's like 5 minutes and it walks through the thing. So Stripsody is basically a comic book strip that has pictures of what they want the singer to do with their voice. This is it's a very tongue-in-cheek. It's kind of like duct taping a banana to a wall in the middle of Art Basel, and it's very much a side of art. It's an important side of art, even though it sounds ridiculous. Why is it an important side of art? Because it's the part of art that pushes the boundaries of what is possible and continues to expand the definition and the boundaries of what we see as art and how we interpret things. That doesn't mean that this is like the most technical art song and it's going to be your favorite. It's there as an expression to make you think a little bit more. If we were in class, this would be a big discussion day on what qualifies as art song. And that's something that you can think about, because there's a lot of things, like if we're just talking about, because there's a lot of art songs that are just like chords with a pretty melody on top of it. And why is that different than some pop songs? Why are some of these songs considered art songs, and then, you know, sort of cerebral pop stuff or like Joni Mitchell isn't considered art song? And then it's like, oh, because they're talking about love, or is it like the tessitura of the song? I don't know. I think there's a lot of gray area in there, and it's something that it's the outer skirts of what we see in our brains as art, and it is part of our job to continue to push the boundaries. So that's Stripsody. And yeah, so watch that. And now we're gonna move on. This is Libby Larsen. Okay. Libby Larsen's an American composer. She's live right now. She lives in Minnesota. She makes appearances everywhere. If you're going to grad school, there's a good chance she could be coming to your school. When I was at Miami for my master, she came there. And I sang the cycle, and I worked with her on it. She's surprisingly tiny. Surprisingly tiny, because I'm not big, and then my pianist was like this little Taiwanese pianist, and she was smaller than me, and Libby Larsen was smaller than her. I feel like Libby Larsen could not have been more than 90 pounds, like 90 pounds. She was the smallest little woman in the room, and also the smartest. She is somebody, when she speaks, everyone listens. She's incredibly brilliant. She started out as a singer. She was in New York at a school. I don't know if she was in Manhattan, like MSM, or I don't know where she was at. But she was at New York. She was in New York for singing in undergrad, and her teachers were letting her compose her own music for her juries, and she loves singers. She started as a singer, but she didn't want to sing. She wanted to compose, and she ended up leaving New York because she said she was tired of not ever being able to see the sky, which is a legitimate thing that people So a lot of people go to New York and they have a hard time. They don't like it there. So her music, she is very much, her writing is very much like Britain. It's very, she has her own musical language, and it rarely makes sense at first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh listen, especially if you're doing something out of context. It's bizarre. It won't make sense. When you put everything together, especially like an entire cycle, and it's performed all together, it's incredibly moving and it's super rewarding to sing. And it's something that the more you sing, the more you learn about yourself, the more you learn about the music. It's like the gift that keeps on giving. I know Isabel and Leo saw Kira did one of her sets last year, and it's just so good. It's so good. It's so good. This is the piece we're looking at. It's probably one of her more famous ones. It's called Try Me Good King. This is 5 songs. It's the last words of the wives of Henry VIII. So dramatically, this is a lot. This is a lot for singers to deal with, because you basically have to be 5 very different women, and you have to put yourself in each of those women, and then you have to die. It's emotionally exhausting. It's a thing. This was written for one of the dramatic coloratura that won the Metropolitan Opera competition in 2001. Nope. That's when it was premiered. It was premiered in 2001. So it was she probably won in the 90s. So yeah. So the first, and also within all of these women and all their words, she has woven into the music different English songs from their period. Some of you will notice. So the first wife, Catherine of Aragon, she was the daughter of Ferdinand and Isabel in Spain, married Henry VIII. She was like older than him. And that's eventually Henry left her for Anne Boleyn, and that's the divorce, and that's all that nasty stuff. But so within Catherine of Aragon, it has the John Dallin tune, In Darkness Let Me Dwell, that happy tune, right? And within, also like notice there are no bar lines. No bar lines. Libby Larsen purposely wrote this so that the singer doesn't know where they are at, because the women did not know their fate. So she wanted the singer to feel scared and disoriented, just like the women. And she succeeded. The first time I sang this cycle through with my coach, I kid you not, I could not match pitch for at least 2 hours. It's a thing. Tonality is used, I think there's only like 1 or 2 tonal things in here, and it's purely for coloristic effect. That's it. So, like, you don't line up. Look at this. Look at this. There's no bar lines. You don't line up. This changes. It's so hard. So that's Catherine of Aragon, Anne Boleyn. This has the John Dallin, If My Complaints. This is apparently what Anne Boleyn said, like right before she got her head chopped off. And we have Jane Seymour. She was the only one that gave him a boy. And even though men are responsible for if it's a guy or a girl, it's not the women. Lo, How a Rose Are Blooming, the Christmas tune. That's the English Rose, the Birth of a Prince. So she died after childbirth. She got sick, and then his son ultimately died. This is Anne of Cleves. Anne of Cleves was from Germany. I care not for these ladies. That's the tune from Thomas Campy. I'm pretty sure Anne of Cleves was a lesbian. She was the only one that didn't die. It just didn't work out. He's like, this isn't going to work out. She's like, no. And then they were like, we'll just be brother and sister. And then he basically gave her an estate that she spent with another woman. And then Catherine Howard. This was his penultimate wife, Catherine Howard. He was like gross in 58 and like he had gout, so his like foot was always like oozing, and he was overweight and he was sick and his foot was oozing and he smelled and he was super gross, and she was 15. But she, and that's, ooh, that also has In Darkness Let Me Dwell in it. Yeah, so he killed her because she was 15 and was in love with a boy. So we're gonna listen a little bit. Oh, I will just stop this and we'll start again.